And so if you couldn't hear that, welcome everybody to the webinar tonight. What do you want your website to do? Now, this is a culmination of a series of communications I've had with you over the last few weeks. And it's really focusing on actually making websites effective. Now, before we start, we've got heaps of people joining us tonight. I just want to make sure that you can hear okay. So can you please just type a note saying you can hear all right? And for those of you, there's quite a few who haven't joined before. So for those of you who haven't joined, the way the webinar operates is that I'll talk and I would love to get your comments and questions. So if you do have questions, just type them into the screen. So just make sure, can someone send a... Great, thanks Louise, that's awesome. You can hear. Fantastic. Welcome Louise. All the way from Benalla, I think, which is good. Now tonight, obviously, let's have a look at the topic. And by the way, we're recording this, so you'll be able to get a recording of it afterwards. And thanks for all your comments too about the emails, the weekly emails I've been sending about how to get your websites working. And really, the focus of those emails is to make sure I can convey as much as what we know about how to get websites working, because really amongst veterinarians is low level understanding really, and so you get you have questions about what I'm saying, and you can see also from people's responses that often they're not thinking along the lines of the research that we're doing. So that's why we're bringing that research to you to show you what you can achieve with your website. So you can see, let's just go through what we're going to cover today. I've said, basically to be successful, you must decide what your website's meant to do. And that's a pretty simple comment, but also fundamental. And as I mentioned before, when I talk to vets about what the number one job their website has, I get a whole range of responses from, well, it's supposed to inform people, it's supposed to let people know how to look after their animals, it's supposed to give us a presence online, and probably 1 in 10 people says it's meant to generate phone calls. And as you probably saw from my emails, from my point of view, the most important thing your website has to do is generate phone calls, because the purpose of your website is to generate business for your practice. Now, if the purpose of your website's not to generate business for your practice, then the conversation's a different conversation. But I'm presuming that everyone here today wants their website to generate business for their practice. You're in a commercial business, and if it is meant to generate business, then you need to have a measure of how to assess whether that's working or not. Because if you don't have a measure for it, how are you going to know whether the money you're spending on the website's worth it? And of course, one of the strategies you could have with regards to measuring is to say, well, I don't spend any money on my website, so it doesn't matter. And that's fine too. But you should know, if that's the case, that you actually can measure the performance. And if you can measure the performance, then you will be inclined to invest in it. And that's quite significant, because a lot of vet clinics are underinvested. Most vet clinics in Australia are underinvested in their websites. And what that means is they don't spend enough money on their websites. And as a result, their websites are poor, meaning they don't generate enough business for the practice. So we'll look at measuring. And then we're going to have a look at how to turn up the dial, how to get it working better. And the third point, how to turn up the dial, you cannot do that. You can't get it working better if you don't know 1 and 2. So let's start with 1. Now, you may well have answered this question before in response to my emails, but I'd like to know what you all think your number 1 job is for your website. So type it into the screen, into your little question section, and let's have a look, and I'll just report back on what's coming up. It doesn't matter what you think it is. It could be a range of things. Let me know what you think. And as those answers are coming in, I'm going to talk to you about the role of phone calls. So from my perspective, and from most vets who I speak to once we've had a conversation, the most important thing is to get a phone call off that website. And the reason the phone call is the most important thing, of course, is because that's how you make your bookings. And if you don't get a phone call, you can't track what's going on. So, and okay, Keith, for instance, you've said you want them to contact the clinic, and I'd ask you to be more specific. How do you want them to contact you? And look, and I'm just going to cut to the chase on that one too, because the most significant form of communication for contacting the clinic is phone calls. Now there are some emails that are happening, and it's worth tracking your emails, but you really need to look at your phone calls first. So yeah, thanks, Keith. That's good. And I think everyone here tonight's really on the same page. And I've also been leading the conversation because, from my point of view, phone calls are the way to go. Okay, so let's say we've got to the point where we've decided that measuring phone calls is the number one job of your website. Then that's just fantastic, because then everything you do is around generating phone calls off that website. And the first thing you've got to do is measure it. How do we measure how many phone calls we're getting? Now, is there anyone here tonight who is measuring phone calls? I think probably, as far as I can see who's coming tonight, there's no one here who's measuring. So let's have a look at measuring. And one of the things that clinics do when they're measuring phone calls, occasionally clinics will survey people at the front desk. So, how did you find our website? And the person might say, sorry, how did you find our clinic, I should say? And they'll say, I found you on the web. And they put that as a big tick that their website's working. Well, unfortunately, those sort of surveys are too vague, and there's a couple of reasons. One of the key reasons is there are multiple channels online to find your clinic, and going to your website specifically is only one of them. So, for instance, you've got Google Places, you've got other directories. So let's have a look here and see whether we can find I'm going to pick one of you guys. I'll just pick any area. Let's go. I'm just going to do a search. By the way, I'm not searching in incognito mode, which I've talked to you about. But that's fine, because I'm not looking for a specific, accurate search result. I'm just having a look, and I'm in Adelaide. Let's make it a little bit more specific. Port Adelaide, and okay, so you can see here there's a whole bunch of ways that people can get to Vets in Port Adelaide. They can use the website here. They can use Maps, which is here, and that might also be on their phone. You can use these directories here, and there's a bunch of different ones. You could even use Facebook. So you can see when someone says, I found your website via the web, it doesn't mean they came to your website. So what we want to specifically do is we want to look at tracking phone calls off the actual website. So people that came here. So let's have a look at this website now. And it's just taking a bit of time to load because we're running a webinar at the same time. And now, Lisa, I know you're on the call, which is great. So if you want to drop any comments to me, please do. So I've chosen this website at random, and this is obviously in Port Adelaide. And if you're going to measure the phone calls, what you need to do is measure the number of people that call that number there. Now, that phone number there, you need to think about what sort of mechanism you're going to put in place there. Now, I'm going to talk to you about a couple of mechanisms, systems that you can use. And if I go now and have a look at, now I think, Felicia, if you want to chime in, I don't think that those phone calls are being measured. Is that correct? If we just go back here and have a look, you can see the phone number on the website is the same as the phone number on their Maps reference here, so which makes it very unlikely it's being tracked. So how do you track phone calls off a website? Well, let's have a look. I'm going to show you one straight away that is tracking, and it's got a dual tracking system on there. This is one of the websites that we run. It's one of our test clinic websites, meaning that we use these websites for developing data on how well they're working, and we then make it available to other clinics. So, okay, so everyone should be able to see here, there's the phone numbers here, and you can see that the phone number itself is obscured, and that's called click to reveal. Can everyone see that? So in order for the punter, when they're coming to the website, either on their phone or on the computer, to dial that number, you have to click it like that. See how I dialed it and clicked? I'll just do it again. And then you can actually ring it. So if you're sitting on, you happen to be on your mobile phone and you want to ring the clinic, you have to actually click the screen first to get the number, and then you can click it again and dial it. And what that does is it registers in the back end of the system that a click has been made. Now that system in itself is used by some of Australia's biggest websites. Let's have a look at one now. It's going to bring one up right now. Let's see if we can get properties for sale. Just while it's loading, can anyone think of the problem with this system where you actually obscure the phone number? Let's try here. Let's have a look at this one here. So whether you let us in for it. Any ideas on the problems? I'm going to show you what the problem is straight away. Okay, so here, realestate.com.au, Lachlan Waterfield, lovely chap. I can't see his full mobile number, so I have to click on it to ring him. There it is. Now, I might now say, I actually don't want to ring Lachlan, and go away somewhere else. So if I go away to another website, that realestate.com.au website has recorded that I've actually clicked on it, but it doesn't mean I've rung. So, can anyone hear my dog? It's Griffo in the background making a hell of a racket. Having the click to reveal process is only part of the puzzle, and all it tells you is someone's clicked on it. And as you can see, I've just been clicking on this website now, and I actually haven't called them. So what we do is we have a secondary system in place there, which is to run a 1-800 number, and that 1-800 number actually records all the phone numbers that actually are dialed off here. Now, we only do it for the test clinics. There's 4 test clinics around Australia, but what that does is it gives a correlation between the number of clicks and the number of phone calls. So each month we get a list of phone calls from the 1-800 number, and we compare that with a number of clicks, and we know that 77.4% of the clicks end up with actual phone numbers or actual phone calls. And that's actually very important, and that's the case for these websites. It might not be the case for your website, but for these websites, that is the case. Is that a question from someone? If you have one, just drop in a question, please. All right, so that means at the end of each month you get a report which shows you the number of clicks, and we can work out how many phone calls are made from that. So if I then go to, so that's how you measure it. Now, if you were going to do it on your websites, what I would do, it's actually quite difficult for you to implement a click to reveal process, like where you click to reveal, you need to get your developer to do it. If you could do it, it would be ideal. But one thing you can do is you can just put your 1-800 number on there. And if you just put the 1-800 number on there, that will give you a true indication of phone calls for about 2 to 3 months. After 2 to 3 months, what we find is that pet owners start putting that 1-800 number in their phones, and it gives you a skewed result. So instead of ringing you from the website, they're ringing from their phone, which means that the numbers you're getting start to inflate and they're inaccurate. But for the first 2 to 3 months, it works pretty well. So that's the first step. How do you measure your phone calls? And then the next bit you want to have a look at is how do you turn up the dial to get it working better? So as soon as you, let's say you're at Port Adelaide and you put a tracking phone number here, and you've got a month of data which says you've got 50 phone calls. Then you start saying, well, is that a good number? Is 50 phone calls a good number? And that's a very good question. So the next thing you need to do is have a look at your analytics data. Who here looks at their analytics data and knows how many unique visitors they get? Anyone? Hands up. Let's have a look at some analytics data. If I go to here, here we go. This is analytics data, and it tells you, you can see here the unique visitors per month for a website. So you need that number. So that tells you how many people are coming to your website each month. And if we then go back to where we were before, to Port Adelaide, so let's say Port Adelaide had, and this would apply to any of you guys, let's say you had 500 unique visitors a month, and then you had 100, let's say 50 phone calls. 50 phone calls. So you're doing the maths here. We need to work out now how effective your website is converting those visitors into phone calls. So the calculation is 50 divided by 500 times 100 over 1 to give you a percentage. Can someone tell me what that is? I think it's 10%. So if this website had 500 people visiting a month and it had 50 phone calls, that would be a conversion, what we call a conversion rate of 10%, which is actually pretty good because can anyone tell me what the conversion rate of this website would be? What the conversion rate of most of your websites is? Anyone want to have a stab? I said 10% is good. What do you reckon yours would be? I want first one to put a number and gets a prize, which is I've got a Freddo frog here, which is just waiting to go out to you. Anyone? No. I'm gonna have to send you a note. Come on, guys, give me an answer. Oh, come on, have a stab. That's a good effort, Lisa, but no idea is not an answer. Okay, I've told you that 10% is pretty good. What would the average Australian vet clinic website conversion rate be? So of every 100 people that come, what percentage of people call? Oh, well done, Lisa, 6%. Okay, I'm going to type the answer here. You ready? Did everyone see that? 2.5 to 5%. Which means that so for every 100 people that come to the Port Adelaide website, about 2.5 to 5 will actually call. And do you think that's good? Well, it's actually not very good. But the reason why it's not good is because the websites have not been designed to get people to call. And that's because pretty much as an industry, we haven't been looking at making websites that make people ring. We've just been making websites. So how do you make those phone calls increase? So once you've got a measurement tool on there, what can you do to make them work better? Well, I'll show you. And I've got about 10 minutes left. And I'm going to show you this website here has done something on the front here to increase the percentage of people that call. So you can see they've got text here, which says full service, and that's a rotating banner. They've got expert friendly and affordable pet care for Rockhampton pet owners, and they've got 7 ways we make owning your pet a breeze, and with a list of 7 different reasons why a pet owner would come to this clinic. Now, that text looks pretty simple, but we paid a lot of money to a top copywriter to produce that. And what a copywriter does is it takes all our information about what we know pet owners want and what their behaviour is, and that person turns it into text, which encourages those people to ring. So I want you now to have a stab at what the conversion rate on this website is to phone calls. So I've said that the average Australian website conversion is 2.5 to 5%. What do you think the conversion rate to phone calls on this website is now with that text on there? So just by adding those words, how many more calls do they get? What percentage? Now someone else has to have a go. Come on, Michael, Wayne, Louise, have a stab. What percentage do you think of people that visit this website ring the clinic now? Okay, Louise, that's good, thank you. Louise says 15%. Anyone got another answer on that? Lisa, 10. I'm going to put the answer in here. You might be shocked. Oh, Michael. Michael's gone 50%. Well, that would be good. It's 22%. And we have had clinics that have got up to 30%. So 30% is our record, but I'm being conservative here. Let's go with 22% is our tested number. So how significant is 22? How successful or significant is 22%? Well, 22% is a massive change from, let's say, 2.5%. So let's say it's a 20%, it's 20% more. So that represents 20 extra phone calls, about 100 extra phone calls a month. So we're looking at about 100 extra calls. I'm going to write this down, 100 extra phone calls. Now we know that of every phone call, so of 100 phone calls, 25 about are prospects, prospective clients. Right, I'm sending all this out to you. Right, so if you can increase the conversion to phone calls, and you're going to get an extra 100 phone calls a month, so that's an extra 25 prospective clients. And let's say you're an average clinic at conversion to new business. So let's say of 25 calls, you can book 12. Right? Now, some clinics can book 90% of their phone calls, but I'm saying, let's be conservative again. Let's say you can book 12. What's 12 calls worth? Or 12 appointments, I should say. What's 12 appointments worth? Okay, well, you want to tell me what one appointment's worth. One new client is worth $500 per annum for 10 years. Just tell me if you disagree with this, by the way. Okay, so it's $5,000 lifetime value for one new client. I'm sending this back to everyone. All right, so if you get 12 new clients a month extra from your website, that's worth what's that? $60,000. No, sorry, $60,000 in new lifetime value per month. So that's basically what this website does compared to a standard website like this one. And there's some other things you can do to accelerate it, but basically this website here generates about $60,000 of lifetime value extra per month compared to the average clinic, vet clinic website. And you can do that. So you can take the content from here and you can put it on your own website. But so let's just go through. I'm about to wrap this up. But this is the secrets of effective websites that we've learned over 2.5 years of testing. And just to recap, this clinic here has allowed us to do tests on their website in order to generate these results. And so if I go back to our original page, because we've covered all this, 1, what's your website's main job? Well, it's to generate phone calls. 2, how to measure it? Well, you've got 2 systems, but if you want a simple one to start with, put a 1-800 number on there that records where the calls come from. Do it for a couple of months. 3, how do you turn up the dial to get it working better? Well, you get some good quality content on the front of the page, which actually talks to pet owners rather than talking to yourself. And you measure the difference. You measure how many more phone calls you get, and you will be amazed. And that's not going to cost you very much money to do that, because I've just given you the information, so you can do it yourself. Or equally, if you wanted to, you could get us to do it for you, and we'd be very happy to quote you on giving you a website like this one, which will generate you about 4 times the phone calls of what you're currently doing. And on that note, I'm going to wrap it up. Do you guys have any other questions for me? And is that all clear? Yes, no. Everyone's gone to sleep. I know it's 8:30 and we want to be watching the cricket. Thank you, Lisa. Very good to speak to you. I'm very glad you attended. Anyone else? Any other comments before I go? And by the way, we will be sending the recording. Louise, that's yes, thanks for what? That was yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Or did you want me to send you something? No, all good. All right, and thank you, Michael. Thanks, Wayne. Thank you, Lauren. Thanks, Hugh. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Elisa. Thanks, everyone else, for coming, and have a lovely night. And I'll speak to you. Thank you, Louise. I understand. Speak to you all again soon. Cheers. Goodbye.